Continuing the 2023 Halloween season with the 31 days of horror movies and or television shows. As of right now, it's kind of looking like it's more like movies this year. I believe I did one or two shows last year, but this is the second year I'm doing this, and I've already got one entry out, and I've also started converting the episodes from last year into like watchable. Well, not really watchable, but I've just been putting the podcast on the YouTube channel for Ghost Potato Studio. Now that I'm kind of putting all of this all together, I mean, they've never been separate entities because there's still stuff that's run by me. But now that I have sort of made the decision to put all of this under the Ghost Potato Studio Monarch, I like to kind of keep it all there and make those connections between things. So, if you don't necessarily like the podcast app you're using, I'm on like a dozen different apps. So I don't know which one you're using. I know some people that use Apple, some people that use Spotify, some people that I myself use Google Podcasts, you know what I'm saying? But I also know that you have the availability to do that stuff on YouTube when you just post it as a video. So I'm kind of doing that, make it a little easier to access and kind of, have it be where you can still play stuff in the background if you like doing that with podcasts. So a lot of those things are going to be popping up on there as well. The channel is, it's really going so well, and I'm really happy about it. That's why I want to continue with doing as much as I can, but I'm always pulling myself in 1,000 different directions, and whenever I like to take a break, that break is usually watching something, and then if I don't get to do an entry for it, it usually goes on the list, which is sort of what this film is like. But it was also kind of the, do we want to watch it now? Is it that important? It didn't really grab me enough to say, all right, let's try to watch this immediately. So I just kind of watched it when we had nothing else to watch, and we both kind of saw it, read the description, and was like, all right, let's do this one. It's Halloween. Let's watch some random horror movies. So There's Something Wrong with the Children is very tense, but it's also very annoying. This is a film where you have people doing a lot of things that you get really annoyed about when it comes to like I almost felt like those people in theaters in the 90s that just shout out the movie theater. Like they're just yelling at the screen like, don't go into that room. What are you doing? You sort of get that with this film. And yeah, you could have that about a dozen different films. But this one is just a little bit more, simply because of what you sort of deal with for the first act of the film. So essentially, these two couples, they go out to this kind of Airbnb little field thing where they're kind of like having a little getaway. And there are two couples, one that's just kind of this live adventure like people. Then there's this other couple who have two children, and they're there. And then one day they decide to go out into the woods, explore a little bit. They find these ruins. In these ruins is a cave. In that cave is like this pit that the children become obsessed with. And of course, what's going to happen now is everything goes downhill. So they become so obsessed with it that they decide they must see it again. And the only person that follows them is not their father, but the guy in the other couple. He follows them, and when they get to these ruins in the cave in the the rattling bog in the rattling bog down in the valley. Yeah, when they get to the cave and the ruins that they get there and they just plummet. They just jump right into this steep tavern, and he watches them. And then he goes back and he's like, I'm sorry. He's about to be like, I'm sorry, they're dead. But of course, the kids wind up being back at the campsite. And so horror ensues, I guess you could say. Because, you know going into this that there's going to be an unsettling thing that happens to the kids, which is a little shocking that they just went flat out and just killed both kids right there in the beginning of the film. But it's setting itself up for what is eventually going to happen, which essentially is he's the only one that has seen them dead. They see the kids there, so they think everything's fine. But he's trying to tell them, no, it's not. These kids are weird. Your kids are, eventually he just flat out says, your kids are dead, but they're not. and nobody believes him. And of course, what's another real big deciding factor? He's apparently got a mental disorder. He like has to take pills because otherwise he's like completely psychotic. And that's another reason why nobody believes him. So then they have this big fight and they get separated, and what happens? The kids turn out to be monsters and kill everybody. That's essentially what the movie is. But it's not even just about all of that put together. There's just so much that happens that's just really annoying when it comes to certain movie tropes. Like, I loved the idea that they were bugs. Granted, the CGI is a little lazy, but I loved what that theory is. You know, the theory of, you know, bugs get attracted to those lights that people have on their porch, and that's how they get killed. So the cave acts as this light, attracting humans. The humans plummet into it because that's what they feel they have to do. They die, and then the bugs take their place, which is weird. So now you would think they would take their place and then maybe just try to lure more of them in so more bugs could take over human bodies. But instead they start playing these mind games with one of the people. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes, even though it's very like nerve-wracking. Like, there's this whole portion where the quote-unquote son, who's really one of the bugs, dies, and they believe this guy killed him. So they call the cops. He runs away. Everybody's upset, and they're kind of, you know, giving each other space, and that's when the bugs kind of make their attack. And as they make their attack, they realize, oh shit, this guy, he was telling the truth the whole time, and he no longer becomes the center of attention. By the third act, the center of attention is his girlfriend, who is now trying to find her way around and not get killed by bug children, while she's discovering, you know, the body of her friend, who is completely, you know, bloodied up. A cop shows up, which, again, if you're calling and saying, hey, there's a dead kid, why is there only one cop showing up? Why is, like, there not an ambulance? One, like, park ranger shows up in, like, a beat-up pickup truck, and they're like, I heard there was a dead body. Like, it's very nonchalant, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, more of these people should be here. Like, we just said there was a dead kid. You should come with the cavalry, and none of you are there. And then, of course, what happens? The cop gets murdered. She doesn't grab the gun. She doesn't grab the keys. She just runs away and tries to get into her car again to kind of get away. And then she sort of does, but then sort of doesn't. The ending is very ambiguous, but she is kind of the final girl. But then it ends with, like, her confronting the 3 bug-possessed people in the middle of the road, and it's just her speeding as fast as she can at them and screaming, and then, like, that's it. Movie's over. So, I think my wife said it best when the movie was over. The title of the film is "There's Something Wrong with the Children," and the real title is "There's Something Wrong with This Fucking Movie," because it just was not a worthwhile use of our time. We felt, at least, like it's very much like, I'm vastly critical when watching movies at that very moment, as well as when I do these 4 movies, when I do these entries. But we just could not stop pointing out all of the bullshit this movie uses. And it's produced by Blumhouse. Like, Blumhouse is usually on top of their game, but granted, this might have been because it's a straight to stream. I think it's like a Hulu movie. I don't know. Maybe what's the other one? A Peacock film. I don't remember exactly, but it's not living up to what Blumhouse standards are, at least for me. It's I mean, I can't even say it's only me. It's got middle of the ground reviews, which, granted, the concept, it deserves like a 5 or 6 out of 10. Just the concept alone is really, really good, but the execution is just really bad.